In the fictional West African nation of Kanza, President Samuel Kalumba had ruled for years with a firm hand. His regime, known for its iron-fisted approach to dissent, had brought economic growth, but beneath the surface, whispers of corruption and human rights abuses spread. The gap between the rich and the poor widened, and discontent simmered. Among those growing increasingly frustrated was Colonel Joseph Mamba, a respected war hero who had once been a loyal supporter of Kalumba. However, as the years passed, Mamba became disillusioned with the president's refusal to step down and his increasingly authoritarian rule. The military, Mamba believed, had become little more than an enforcer of tyranny, betraying its duty to protect the people. Quietly, Mamba began to gather support from other officers who shared his concerns. They met in secret, discussing their frustrations and forming a plan to seize power. Mamba believed that a military coup was the only way to end Kalumba's reign and restore democracy. The plan was simple but bold: take control of the capital, capture the president, and announce a transitional government that would lead to free elections. The coup was set for a stormy night, coinciding with a major religious festival when the streets would be filled with revelers, and the city would be distracted. Mamba and his supporters believed the chaos of the festival would provide cover for their actions and reduce the likelihood of resistance. As the night unfolded, Mamba's forces moved swiftly. They seized control of key government buildings and took over the national radio and television stations. The element of surprise was on their side, and by dawn, they had surrounded the presidential palace. But what was meant to be a swift and relatively bloodless takeover soon spiraled out of control. Kalumba's elite guards, fiercely loyal to the president, refused to surrender. A fierce battle broke out, and the sounds of gunfire echoed through the city. Buildings were set ablaze, and civilians, caught in the crossfire, scrambled for safety. Inside the palace, Mamba's forces breached the final line of defense. Cornered and desperate, President Kalumba gave a final, devastating order: his guards were to detonate explosives planted throughout the palace. The blast leveled the building, killing Kalumba, Mamba, and dozens of soldiers on both sides. The explosion sent shockwaves through the capital, both literally and figuratively. The coup that was supposed to bring change and hope had instead unleashed chaos and destruction. With its leadership decimated, Kanza plunged into anarchy. Rival factions within the military and political elite began to vie for control, and the once stable nation became a battleground. In the aftermath, Kanza's future looked bleak. The international community responded with alarm, closing borders and sending aid as the country descended into violence. What had been a carefully planned coup turned into a nightmare, a brutal reminder of the cost of power struggles. Years later, Kanza remained a fractured nation, its people struggling to rebuild their lives. The failed coup became a symbol of lost hope, a stark warning of what can happen when ambition and violence take precedence over peace and democracy. The dream of a brighter future was buried in the rubble of the presidential palace, alongside the bodies of those who had fought for it.